bring in Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana. Senator, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Joe.
It's very interesting. Yesterday, about 10 minutes after Nancy Pelosi had given her speech, I turned on the TV and I heard analysts predicting what was going to happen in the Senate. And of course, the Senate would vote down any impeachment move. We hadn't even gotten 5 minutes past an inquiry. Everybody's already jumping to conclusions. So let's just take this one step at a time. And I'm just curious, what are your thoughts about what happened yesterday? What are your concerns? What is the best way for the Senate, the House, the institution of Congress to move forward at this point?
Well, the short answer is with facts. Here's where we are right now. President Trump contends he did absolutely nothing wrong. President Trump's opponents say what he did was outrageous, and it marks the end of Western order. Today, we're going to start getting some of the facts. I understand the transcript is going to be released. I understand that President Zelensky has agreed to the release of that transcript, which is very important as a precedent. The whistleblower is going to come in front of the Intelligence Committee. Knowing senators, his identity or her identity will probably leak. That's not a criticism of the Intelligence Committee. I just have learned how the way this place works. Here's what I think the American people are looking at. They're saying, well, we don't know what happened. Is this just a continuation of the D.C. soap opera, or is this something important? They'd like to know what Trump said to President Zelensky. Why did he say it? They're probably asking themselves, what is this stuff about Vice President Biden and his son? And I think over time, probably up until the election, this will unfold.
Senator Kennedy, do you have any particular concerns now regarding the conversations that Donald Trump had with the president of Ukraine? I know a few of your colleagues have said, I have concerns, but I want more information before passing any judgment. Is that where you are at this point?
I'd like to see the transcript. Look, President Trump asks for investigations all the time. I think he's asked twice for Saturday Night Live to be investigated. And so before I knew we were going to get the transcript, I was saying, well, could he have said this or could he have done that? Now we're going to find out. And I think this conversation is probably privileged. He's going to waive that privilege. And President Zelensky is okay. That's paramount. That he's okay with the releasing it. And now we're going to get the facts. And I suspect that for the next year and a half, up until the election, we're going to be talking about what the president said to whom, why he said it, and about the allegations against the vice president, former vice president.
Yeah, he may have said that about Saturday Night Live, of course. He could not hold up funding for Lauren Michaels' show. He did, he admitted to holding up funding for Ukraine. Is there any concern there? Are you curious about the nexus between the holding up the funds and, according to the Wall Street Journal at least, the president asking the president of Ukraine to investigate Hunter Biden 8 times?
Well, sure, I'm concerned about it, and that's why I want to get the facts. In terms of Ukraine, under the last two, not the current president, but the last two presidents of Ukraine, Ukraine has had rampant corruption.
Right.
The previous president did better than the one before him, but they were both nothing to be proud of. Now, President Zelensky is new. He ran on an anti-corruption campaign. I'm optimistic. I hope he sticks by his guns. I think we ought to support him. So am I concerned about all this? Sure. But I think it's important. We learned in the Russian investigation and all the other investigations, it's important to wait on the facts, Joe.
Yes, exactly.
Senator Kennedy, it's Willie Geist. Good to see you this morning.
Willie.
Do you just have concerns, just put this moment in a vacuum? The president of Trump has admitted that he talked to President Zelensky about Joe Biden and encouraged him to look into Joe Biden.
Right.
Joe Biden is, if you look at the polls, he could be the opponent of President Trump in 2020.
Right.
So that's Donald Trump looking for information on a political opponent. Does that fact concern you?
Well, all this concerns me. It concerns the conversation with President Zelensky concerns me. The allegations about Vice President Biden and his son concern me. That's why we need to get to the bottom of it.
But what about the President of the United States asking a foreign leader to look into a political opponent? Just take that.
Well,
That concerns you?
When you put it that way, of course. I mean, you'd have to
That's the way the president put it, yeah.
Well, I understand, but of course. I mean, anybody would be concerned, but we're going to get the transcript. I want to see the words that were used. I want to see the context in which the words were used, and I want to try to get the facts. And Willie, if you set aside the crank wings, I think that's what most Americans right now are, to the extent people are interested yet, are trying to figure out.
What do you make of the Ukrainian prosecutor saying in May of Hunter Biden, quote, Hunter Biden did not violate any Ukrainian laws. We do not see any wrongdoing. That's from the prosecutor in Ukraine. Do you take him at his word?
I would have to know more about the prosecutor. Let me say it again. My experience with Ukraine, and I have been to the country, is that the two previous presidents were on the scarce side of honest, and the most recent one, before the current one, was a little better, but not much. President Zelensky, I have high hopes for him. I want to do everything I can to help him, but well done's better than well said. He needs to clean up the corruption in Ukraine, and I think there was a lot of corruption there, and maybe still is.
And do you have any concern, Senator, about a private attorney in Rudy Giuliani pursuing this story outside the State Department, pursuing it outside the National Security Council? In other words, someone who does not work in the administration, working on behalf of the president, talking foreign policy with a foreign government.
Well, I did. I was with Chuck Todd yesterday, and Chuck asked me about Mr. Giuliani, and my response was, I don't really want to go there. I mean, no disrespect. I've never met Mr. Giuliani, but I think I said, and I meant it, he's wild as a March hare. So I can't be responsible for what. I can't be responsible for. I didn't say, he's a smart guy, but he's a free-range chicken. I mean, he just kind of gets on out there.
Well, he's a free-range chicken who, if you read the Washington Post this morning, is sort of running a shadow policy toward Ukraine, taking orders from the president outside the State Department and asking a foreign government to look into a political opponent of the president. Does that bother you?
Well, if it's true, sure, but there are going to be all kind of allegations.
You don't think that Rudy Giuliani has been talking with Ukraine about this story?
I'm not going there, Willie.
He's the one who talks about it. He was on this morning on a different network talking about it.
I know. I only watch your network, Willie. I don't know about the other one. I'm not going there. Look, there are going to be so many allegations before this is over about the president, about Vice President Biden. And I mentioned this to Chuck yesterday, for whom I have great respect. I don't always agree with his politics, but I enjoyed our conversation. Look, letting the cat out of the bag is a lot easier than putting it back in. We're in the middle of a presidential campaign, not just Republican versus Democrat. But if you think President or Vice President Biden's Democratic opponents aren't going to be all over this kind of stuff, the allegations about him as well as the allegations about Trump, that's just, politics is not beanbag. Everybody has an opposition researcher.
So if the facts play out the way Democrats believe they may, which is that this whistleblower report, which you want to see, obviously, and a lot of people want to see, show that there was some kind of a quid pro quo, that the Trump administration said we're holding back almost $400 million worth of military aid unless you look into Joe Biden and his son. Do you believe that is an impeachable offense? Oh,
I'm not going to answer that. Well, let me tell you why. If the president is impeached, I'm going to do my job. My job is to be a juror and to listen to all sides and to make a dispassionate decision. I'm not naive. I know impeachment is a political process. Impeachment, by definition, says we don't like the president, or the president did something so bad, whoever the president is, that we can't wait until the next election. I get that.
Right.
But I don't want to prejudge these facts now that we're going to get the transcript. I don't want to prejudge them for President Trump. I don't want to prejudge them for Vice President Biden. I hope both gentlemen have full disclosure and say, here it is. I'm out here. I'm putting it in front of the American people. I trust the American people to decide. And I really mean that.
All right, Senator, I'm going to spread it around here. Noah Rothman of Commentary Magazine's here. Noah?
Senator, so I also have been to Ukraine. I've sat down across from the prosecutor, Yuri Lutsenko. I share your concern.
It's a beautiful country.
It's a gorgeous country with a robust effort to create a series of legitimate institutions, but it's not there yet. I share your concern about the conduct of justice in that country and the president's concern. So what leads you to believe that the conduct of justice can be done impartially in this case in Ukraine against a citizen who has not been accused of a crime? Wouldn't tossing that over to Ukrainian institutions, which we understand could be corruptible, be an invitation for corruption?
Well, I can be hopeful. President Zelensky had no prior political experience. I thought that was a good thing. He ran on an anti-corruption platform. So far, he's done exactly what he says and said he would do. And until proven otherwise, I think he's going to fight corruption, and I want to try to help him. That's why the Senate.
I'm sorry, Senator. Continue.
I don't know if that answers your question. Maybe I didn't understand it.
Well, so let's phrase it another way. Let's take Ukraine out of it. Let's say that the president now is circumventing his foreign policy, his national security apparatus, sending his personal attorney to Ukraine in order to advocate for the prosecution, or at least the investigation of this individual. You're a straight shooter, Senator. You tell it like it is. You can understand how that sounds to the American ear, not like the pursuit of justice, but the pursuit of vengeance.
Well, and that's a legitimate point of view. I just don't know if it's accurate. I honestly want to get the facts. I didn't think we were going to be getting this transcript. I had concerns about releasing the transcript in the sense of foreign policy. I don't talk to world leaders like presidents do, but I talk to some, and I don't want my conversations transcribed and made public. You know why? World leaders won't talk to me anymore. So I didn't expect this transcript to be released, but it's going to be released. And now that we're going to get more facts, we'll eventually find out who the whistleblower is. This place leaks like the Titanic. We'll probably, you guys will probably get it before I will, a copy of the affidavit. And I'm sure the allegations about Vice President Biden's son are going to be pursued, if not by Republicans, by his Democratic opponents in the race. So this is all going to come out. And the stuff about Mayor Giuliani.
Senator, it's Mike Barnacle, and I want to ask you, you just said a few seconds ago that you don't want to prejudge anyone on this. You don't want to prejudge Vice President Biden. What would you prejudge Vice President Biden on when his involvement with Ukraine was quite active in 2016, late 2015? He was not flying solo.
Well, this is the way I think an average American, to the extent that he or she is interested, is looking at this about Vice President Biden right now. A Ukrainian oligarch put the vice president's son on his board of directors, paid him $600,000 a year, hired his law firm, and gave his law firm a boatload of money. How did the Russian oligarch get the vice president's son's name? Did he get it off ZipRecruiter, or was he trying for some kind of connection? And if he was trying, he, meaning the oligarch, was trying for some kind of connection, did it work? Now, I think that's the way the average American looks at this. I'm not saying that the vice president or his son, neither of whom, I met the vice president once, never met his son. I'm not saying that he did anything wrong, but I think
you're coming pretty close.
No, the New York Times wrote an editorial about this, talking about, it's been some time ago, about talking about the conflict of interest. And actually last month, I didn't know this until I went and did the research after all this came out. Politico in August did a long story about all of this and the Hunter Biden connection. So I don't know if it's true, but it'll all come out.
Senator, I suspect we'll have you back on to talk much more about this. Do want to ask you before we let you go about President Trump's pick for a judge on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in New York. That nominee, Stephen Menashe, frustrated senators on both sides of the aisle, as you know, in the Judicial Committee confirmation hearing earlier this month. Let's listen.
Counselor, you're really a smart guy, but I wish you'd be more forthcoming. This isn't supposed to be a game. We're supposed to try to understand not how you're going to rule, but how you're going to think.
Well, Senator, happy to be more forthcoming if you have a follow-up. I'm trying to be.
I'm out of time. You took a lot of it by not answering my questions.
Did you work on the administration's decision to end deferred deportation for undocumented immigrants who are receiving treatment for life-threatening illnesses?
Senator, again, consistent with my duties of confidentiality to the client, if the committee is interested in knowing about particular matters.
I'm not asking for what advice you gave. I'm not asking you to disclose any confidence. I'm asking you if you worked on the issue of denying DACA status to those who are receiving treatment for life-threatening illnesses.
Senator, again, I want to be as transparent as possible.
Then please
before this hearing,
if I could, that's not an unfair question. Did you work on the subject matter?
Senator, I worked on immigration.
No, it's
issues.
A specific question.
And it went on like that all day. Senator Kennedy, are you going to oppose President Trump's nominee there?
I don't know yet, Willie. My problem is this. Look, I don't know the gentleman. He may be Oliver Wendell Scalia, for all I know, but he wouldn't answer the questions. And I didn't like that. The president's made some good nominations, but we've had to reject 3 or 4 of them, and I've had a part in it. And I talked to the president about it. I told him I'm going to do my job. I prepare for these hearings. And I'm not going to vote to put somebody on the bench if he's not going to answer my questions. Now, I've told Chairman Graham, and I'm meeting today with White House counsel. They're coming to see me. Probably not to talk about the weather. But what I've said, bring him back. Bring him back. And with all due respect, tell him to answer the questions. I don't want him to talk about attorney-client privileged information. I don't want him to predict how he's going to, or tell us how he's going to vote in a case. But I ask him straight-up questions to discern what his judicial philosophy is. Is he an originalist? Is he a non-originalist? Is he a textualist? Is he a pragmatist? He's a smart guy. He knew what I was talking about. And you know his answer? He stalled and restalled. And I don't like that. I've prepped witnesses before. I tell witnesses, look, don't lead with your chin. This is when I was in private practice. But answer the question, man. Answer the question. And he wouldn't answer the question. And that's happened before with these nominees. And count me fed up.
And we could hear in that hearing room the frustration was bipartisan between Dick Durbin, yourself, and even the chairman.
Well, this isn't a game, Willie. These guys are from, and women, they're from life, man. They're from life. You know, till death do us part. And we can't afford to make a mistake here.
All right, Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, we always appreciate your time. Thanks so much.